Hello and welcome to World Talks here on TVP World with me, Ashim Kumar. Donald Trump has been sworn in as the 47th US president, his second time in this position. His clearly stated position throughout the campaign was that the US was being taken advantage of by other countries and that he wanted to create a fairer economic structure. This included primarily more investment in NATO by member states and the imposition of trade tariffs where he felt that an economic imbalance existed. As the largest economy in Europe, Germany is certainly going to come under his spotlight. Well, is the political and economic establishment in Germany prepared to explore this and related questions? I'm joined by Daniela Schwarzer. She's Executive Board Member, Bertelsmann Stiftung, an independent foundation. Welcome to TVP World. Thank you for taking the time.
Thank you for having me and good morning.
Good morning to you. So, what do we think of Trump's inauguration, his election? What do we expect him to do when it comes to economic relations with Germany?
Well, first of all, on the inauguration, it was obviously a huge party to celebrate his victory, lots of fans. Although, of course, it was held inside, people weren't flowing in masses as he had hoped, but it was a real party to celebrate not only Donald Trump, but also his future cabinet members and his closest political allies. I think the one picture that stuck with me was the one where you could see a number of tech giants of whom we know that they are close to Trump, but who stood there during the celebration. And that represents to me this new alliance between a US government and big tech with, of course, a lot of combined power. And then the second notable element is, of course, the executive orders that he signed on day one, as he said. And I would say of those, none was really surprising because he did start with the implementation of some of his main electoral promises, be it a clampdown on illegal immigration, be it the exit from the Paris climate deal, be it the exit from the World Health Organization, or the tariffs on Canada and Mexico. So in those executive orders, including also the pardons of about 1,600 people who were part of the storm on the Capitol of January 6, 4 years ago, there's nothing really surprising. So we may expect that he continues in the next few days implementing the first measures. Some will be contested legally, but it is pretty coherent with what he said as a candidate, what has happened during the last 24 hours.
Right. So what do you expect him to do economically? You know, there's been a lot of discussion on the imposition of tariffs. He wants to, as he sees it, even out the economic playing field. He believes that America is being taken advantage of. What do you think is going to happen there, especially vis-à-vis Germany and the EU?
I think he will start implementing import tariffs on European goods. What he has done during his first term, I think, will repeat itself, and that is general tariffs, but also the selection of certain goods that particularly hurt one country or the other. Because in the case of the European Union, obviously trade policy is a European Union competence. So if he imposes tariffs, that would be on the whole of the EU if they are general tariffs. But as I said, he could single out certain product groups, like he has done with French goods, in particular wine and other things. And in the German case, steel would hurt, or also, of course, car products, either cars as a whole or components. So we have to expect tariffs. And also, of course, he has already said he will start drilling for oil, even in protected areas, leaving the Paris climate deal. Energy-wise, the US will show more presence on the world markets. There's also some continuity to his first term, though that was LNG. He put pressure on Germany to buy LNG from the US, which at that time of his first term was not an attractive alternative to Germany because LNG was simply too expensive. But now, with Germany having exited Russian fossil energy imports, in particular gas, Germany already imports LNG and the terminals have been built. So there could be some pressure to import more because he clearly wants to balance external trade of the US, and energy is a key component here, as it was during his first term.
Okay, understood. Now, is the German economy in a good place to handle these changes, these shifts?
Germany's economy has been in a critical situation over the past few years. The economy hasn't really grown for 3 years in a row, not because of the US, but because of more general changes. One of them is the high energy price that came as a consequence of Russia's invasion of Ukraine and the consequential decision to exit Russian fossil energy imports, and the fact that Germany wasn't ready at the time to switch to renewable energies. Progress has been made now, but energy prices are still comparatively high, in particular as the government of Angela Merkel at the time had decided to leave nuclear energy as well. So our energy mix at this moment still is one where energy prices are high. This is particularly relevant for some parts of the German industry, like the chemical industry, to some extent also the car industry and other areas. The other problem is that Germany needs a lot of infrastructure investment in innovation and digital, both innovation but also infrastructure. So we are at the moment in a catch-up process. So I would say that the corner isn't totally turned, but policies also of the now outgoing government have prepared the ground for the German economy to pick up again. But right now, if Trump hits the German economy with tariffs, that is, of course, painful because we are in a phase where the German economy is undergoing restructuring, where a lot needs to be invested to become competitive in the future technologies and the future pathways of digitization. And we aren't quite there yet. And this is also unfortunately true to some other economies in the European Union as a whole. So Europe needs to put more emphasis together on its new competitiveness and growth agenda, which Ursula von der Leyen as Commission President really focuses on. So I think in that package, national measures and European measures, Europe will be able to master the challenges that are now coming out of the US, but it won't be an easy process.
Understood. Now, does Germany have the opportunity to act in its relationship with the US in a way that is more independent from the EU position?
I frankly don't think that Germany has a big interest to do that because from a German perspective, we've spoken about the world economy and Germany's dependency on exports. The same is true for the European Union. Our economy is deeply anchored in the single market. So actually, I think it should even be a priority of the next government to make sure that there aren't more divisions in the single market. So Germany shouldn't fuel them by trying to build a particular relationship with Donald Trump, in opposition to EU partners, but quite the opposite. Of course, as the largest economy in the EU and the third largest economy in the world, Germany has a particular weight and a particular potential influence. However, it is best when it works together with European allies. And if you compare market sizes, yes, Germany is a big economy in the world, but if you look at the whole of the single market, you compare it to the US market or to China, it's then that we really have economic weight in the world. Another issue is, of course, defense, and that's where Donald Trump will put pressure on Germany. We have now reached 2% of defense spending to GDP. He has already said he wants 5%. I don't think we'll go there, but we will have to increase our defense spending, not because of Donald Trump, but because the European allies within NATO need to do more for European defense. Poland is showing the example, and Germany has to prepare for a situation where it contributes more, not only to the support of Ukraine, where US support will be reduced, but also to European defense in the medium and longer term.
Understood. Now, how do you think this increase in defence investment, both in terms, I assume, of developing and development and production, but also in terms of investing in NATO, how is that going to be perceived within German society?
Public opinion in Germany has changed over time. There's one remarkable element, and that is that support for Germany's support for Ukraine was consistently robust. So even now, almost 3 years after the beginning of Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine, people still understand how important it is that Ukraine is supported. We now have two parties which actually campaign on the opposite position, trying to convey the idea that it's better to bring peace to Ukraine by not supporting Ukraine, meaning they have a position which they take to the national electoral campaign, which says, don't deliver weapons because we want peace. But there is a strong push against that position by other parties, in particular the Christian Democrats, also the Social Democrats and the Greens, who rightly argue that Ukraine must be supported. And public opinion, hasn't declined on that position. Of course, it's not on the same level as it was 3 years ago, but it is still there, that people understand how important support for Ukraine is, in fact, beyond Ukraine, because it is about Europe's security order.
Understood.
On defense spending, important things have happened in our domestic debate, because for decades in the German society, there was no threat perception, because people understood, in particular after the wall came down after 1989, that we were living in peaceful times with the enlargement of the European Union, our neighbor Poland coming into the EU, and security risks seemed very far away. And this was distinctly different to the perception in the Baltic states and Poland and other Central and Eastern European countries, in particular after Russia annexed Crimea in 2014.
Right.
But now this is slowly changing. Our government has said many things that have conveyed that message, that we have to worry about our security, not only in Germany, but on a continental scale.
Indeed.
So people are getting used to the understanding that more must be spent on defense.
Absolutely, and we will be watching carefully as events unfold. Daniela Schwarzer, thank you so much for sharing your analysis with our audience. Have a good day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye now. And that's all from us in this episode of World Talks. Goodbye.